I'm DB, this is Brooklyn Verse, and today we're taking on the biggest upsets in sports history.
Go Bridgeside! Go Bridgeside!
Coming off one of the biggest upsets in sports history, it was the number 16 seed UMBC taking out the number 1 tournament seed University of Virginia. Is it the biggest sports upset of all time? We're going to go into that with the crew tonight. I have myself, DB, Mike Boo, we got the analyst Chris Ventra, and we got Philly Cags, Dr. Sports Science.
What's up, DB?
All right, Phil, I'm going to start with this. Simply put, what did you think of this game Friday?
Not only did they win, which was shocking in itself, they blew them out. They won by 20 points. And Virginia's a defensive team.
Yep.
Donnie, I think you told me before that was the most points Virginia had given up all season.
Was it 74, 54?
That's insane.
Or something like that?
They won.
Yeah, it was insane.
They scored 50 points in the second half.
Yeah.
The guy didn't. I felt like Lyles, the kid didn't miss in the second half.
All their 3-point shots, 12 for 24. That's Golden State NBA stuff. It's unbelievable.
You would think if it ever happened, buzzer beat it, but it wasn't.
Do you think it's maybe fixed? No, because I'm saying,
I wouldn't say in an event like that because that's a very random 1-16.
A 16 never beat a 1, and you're talking about every year there's 4 16s playing a 1. I mean, it's never happened before. For that to happen, and I think that's harder.
135 times.
I think that's harder than going undefeated in football or something like that. You know
No, and I love conspiracy theories, but we're going to start with Boo here.
I mean, I'm more I'm more shocked that it took this long. Quite honestly, I'm not.
I am too. Yeah.
Like,
really?
I'm surprised the 16 hasn't beaten a 1 until then. 135 straight for something like this to happen. I just thought it would happen
because
before.
you had a couple of 15 seeds beat a 2 seed.
Yeah.
And I really don't think there's that much.
Yeah, Lehigh over Duke.
Exactly.
I don't know. I mean, come on, you've seen. We went to Albany. We've seen those games. I mean, we were up by 15 on UConn, actually, at one point.
In the first half.
I remember that. But then we ended up getting blown out.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's just a different class of ball.
No doubt, but if you shoot 12 for 24 and you're a good defensive team, that's really that's a recipe that could beat any team.
For 20, if you won by 2, okay, you know, barely won.
That's
you win
the
by
most
20.
amazing. That's
it's
the
like,
most amazing.
what the hell? That's a complete.
I mean,
bomb
that game got weird because maybe you figure it could have been a 10-point game. Virginia completely lost their mojo.
Right.
And that was just it.
Their
They gave up
confidence is
towards the end of that
probably
game.
gone,
Yeah.
right?
So that was it. And then UMBC kept going hard, so that was pretty much it.
The crowd was getting behind them.
Yeah, of
too.
course.
Yeah,
I mean, it
smelt that
was
happening.
it had all the aura of that. But here's what I'm going to go with, which is the point of tonight's discussion. Is it the biggest sports upset of all time? Boo, I'm going to start with you.
No, it's not the biggest. I think a lot of people would say it is.
What do you got for me then?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna lead with kind of, I think, maybe the obvious one, which is the Miracle on Ice.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's over the Russians?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about amateur players versus, you know, just.
Is that the obvious, I guess?
I think it's the obvious one.
Stands out, certainly.
I agree.
Nobody was expecting them to win that game, even that they were in the game, and then, you know, with everything surrounding it in terms of, I know that's not really the question, but it was like Cold War and stuff, and like beating them. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on the line, made it even more important. I don't know if that makes it more of a impressive upset, but I think it does play into it.
I'll go with this first. So, hockey is such a physical game. It is actually very easy to dominate if you're the better team. So I could absolutely see that being a big deal, bigger than basketball, in my opinion.
I agree.
But Phil, go ahead. You were going to say something.
All I was going to add to that is that the Soviet Union, at the beginning of that year, played the NHL All-Stars and won like 10-1.
Yeah.
So they blew out the NHL All-Stars that year, and then, like Mike said, amateur players just, you know, happened to beat them.
Absolutely, had a great day.
And you're right, though, because you look at like the Olympics. We just watched the Winter Olympics, and you see what happens when a really good hockey team plays a team that's not at the same level. It's usually
-8.
blowouts, right? So the fact that they won that game is incredible.
Yeah, no.
All right, Chris, what do you got for me? Biggest upset?
I thought this was the most obvious one because also recency bias was when the Falcons blew the lead against the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I thought that was probably the worst.
That's a collapse.
That's misinterpreting the question. That's the biggest choke of all time.
Well, yeah. So, well, it's an upset.
So you're saying that the Patriots
It's an upset in the sense.
You're saying Tom Brady win the Super Bowl was an upset.
No, but it's an upset in the sense that
maybe the first
I
time
believe they were a 4-point favorite.
at that
going
point
into
in time, when you're up by that much, it's almost impossible for a team to come back and win that game. It is the biggest choke ever, I guess you could say.
I
But
think
it's also one of the biggest upsets
It's a different
in-game.
class. Yeah, but if you're gonna go along that route, you got to look to the Giants, Pats.
Oh, there we go. That's my.
I'm
upset.
sorry.
No,
That's
that's all right.
your-
That's all right.
No, it's out
Yeah,
there.
Giants
Maybe I'm a
Pats is up-
homer.
is
No, it
one of
doesn't
the-
just be out there.
No, that's definitely one. Giants
I mean, I'm a
Pats.
little homer. You
The
had
first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were. You had.
That was a
They
David versus Goliath
ruined the
matchup.
perfect
Absolutely.
season. They were 18
And they
they were
lost
on
to
the
them.
brink of history.
Week 17.
And you needed the greatest play, craziest play, whatever you want to
Yeah.
call
Yeah.
it, in Super Bowl history.
And the Giants were just a hot team. That's
Yeah.
what they were.
Right.
They got
The
hot.
Patriots
And-
had talent on pretty much
And it's kind of
offense,
like
defense,
it's kind of
special
like
teams.
how you said in this
except for the
game.
line,
Let's say
sorry.
the 16-1 game, you would have said if you watched like, oh, no way Virginia's going to give up 74 points. That's their style. Before Super Bowl 42, you would have said the Patriots are only going to score 14 points. No way the Patriots are going to score 14 points. That's crazy.
I'm going to say this, though. All the things we've mentioned so far have been, if you think about it, one game. There was no series involved there. There was no. So you know what I'm saying? Like that's. In one game, anything can happen. Like in the NCAA tournament, in football, you know, anybody can win. A hot team can win.
Jets Colts Super Bowl.
But was one of the crazy. I hate to bring this
Huge
one up.
line.
Is that yours?
Yeah, I'd have to say so. Huge line on the game against the Jets. Joe Namath goes out there, makes history, and the Colts just
That's just
the
you being
Colts
a homer.
underplayed.
I've never even seen that. Guy.
I actually did see the game on Classics. I didn't, of course, was nowhere near seeing it live.
You still haven't picked the greatest upset because you went with the Falcons.
All right, well,
Biggest choke
I was
job.
just going to say one, and this kind of stinks.
What?
Well, I mean, what about when the Yankees lost to the Red Sox
Again,
after being up 3-0?
Again, you go with
That's a
choke
huge
job.
show.
This is a choke job. This is for a different show.
But at the same time, they were the favorites. They were the better team. I think they should have won the series.
They were, but I think if you looked at when they're up 3-1, yes, they should win the series.
3-0.
I'm sorry.
3-0.
But that's not the
That's
biggest
pretty
upset.
That's the
incredible.
spirit of the question.
All right,
No.
all right.
The Red Sox had a very good team that year. They
Yes,
easily
they
could have
did.
won that just without.
So we're
4 in a
talking
row.
David and Goliath type situation.
Absolutely.
So anyway, if you're looking like odds based, you know, UMBC, I know that somebody put what was it,
$800.
$80 bet? Oh, $800 bet. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. They ended up with 16K, so it was something like 2,000 to 1 or whatever. But I'm going to give you another one, which is Leicester City.
Oh, I was going to say that actually.
5,000.
5,000 to 1 odds
To win the whole table.
Yes.
And that's a bunch of games. That's a whole season.
it's a
That's
season.
It is-
38 games.
And if we're talking about from a betting perspective, that is the biggest odds payout on any bet ever
Wow.
in
Really?
terms of winning. Yes, winning
Wait,
a
what
game
about like
or a
Roger
league.
Federer versus somebody in like the?
Well, he's
in the
never
first
lost.
round of- okay. That's what I'm saying. His odds are like.
And by
They're
the,
the
way,
other way, though.
By the way, whenever you get to the finals or semifinals in a tennis table, it's always guys that are good enough to win. Like people don't run through tennis tournaments.
But he's talking
you'll
about
win a
like
game
the
or
first
two.
The
round.
opposite way.
He's talking about the first
Oh,
round.
all right, I got you. I
Where
got you.
it's just
Yeah.
every year.
It's just
That's
like, you know,
remarkable,
minus-
5,000 to 1.
Incredible.
I think Tom Hanks had a piece of that actually. If I remember one of the stories.
What?
On ESPN.
Get out of here.
Like he bet it. I'm serious.
What about if you just want to go into boxing? You know, as big Buster Douglas versus Mike Tyson.
Sure.
Yeah.
Literally, that fight, they had already started negotiating with Holyfield to
Right.
fight Tyson because
Yeah.
they just assumed they were getting ready for Tyson Holyfield, and then
skipping
Douglas,
right over that, yeah.
and then Douglas came in and just clocked him.
I will say this about that one though. Boxing, I could easily see, and maybe it's partially because of that fight, that somebody could just go and have a bad night. You're only relying on yourself, especially a big puncher.
But we didn't watch
I mean,
but Tyson before that was an animal that could not be stopped.
Yeah.
Like there
I
was
get you,
nobody
I
that
get you.
made it out of like the
Terrified of him.
second round.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, but
I got one.
yeah, please.
There we go. Finally,
I'm waiting.
Hey,
I
please
got
tell
one.
me it's
Desperately
not
for
an
you to have one.
upset.
Here we go.
Here's another choke job.
When the Giants beat the Buffalo Bills in 1990 with Jeff Hostetler against Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly actually beat the Raiders the game before. I think it was
blew
48
them
to
out.
3.
Yeah, they
it
blew
was
them
something
out.
ridiculous. And the Giants had
Best
no business
offensive
winning that
football.
game.
You're slowly starting to.
I'm still starting to
They're slowly
but
on a turn
that's
in
a,
the
that's a
right
huge
direction.
upset.
That
I mean,
was-
still,
that
that was
was.
still a huge upset.
That was.
Even though the Giants had a great D that year.
What about Villanova winning the tournament in '85 as an 8 seed?
Yeah, absolutely.
They
Well,
won
that's the biggest
18,
to win it, sure.
And that was the biggest win, and they beat one of the most unstoppable teams with Patrick Ewing in Georgetown. And a couple
Absolutely.
of years before, NC State beat Houston.
So I know we're talking a lot about individual games, biggest upset, but I mean, I think in terms of this tournament, this has been the most upsets in any kind of a tournament or playoff situation already in this college basketball tournament this year. I'll tell you what will be one of the biggest upsets if it could ever happen, but it never will. This, the women's UConn basketball, they scored 140 points or something. They had 94 points at the half. 94 points at the half in their first round
We talked
game.
about them last time.
I mean, if anybody could ever take them down, I think it did happen once.
Mississippi State
last
year.
year, South Carolina beat them.
Oh, South Carolina,
That stopped
sorry, right.
their 111 game winning streak that we were talking
But
about.
like we said about
They
women's
lost in the
basketball,
semis
there's
of the tournament.
crazy
I know.
dominance. in
But
that
that's what we're saying. I don't know. But
Real quick, I want to throw a baseball one out. The 1951 Dodgers and Giants, the shot heard around the world. That was a best-of-3 series. Dodgers had this huge lead. Giants came back. That's an upset. That's not just one game. Might be a little bit of a
Series.
choke. I might be going a little bit
What
towards
other
Chris.
baseball big series upsets have there been, though?
A baseball big series upset. In recent history, I would just
The
say Mets
1969
over
Mets.
Cubs.
No, 1969 Mets.
Well, they
Miracle Mets.
They had to make a big
in the
run
name.
to get
I
there.
know,
though.
but then they were supposed to
They
lose.
handled the Orioles once they got
They
there.
were
though.
supposed to lose that game, that series.
I
though.
understand.
They were supposed to lose
Well,
that.
the Orioles were a great team that
Yeah,
year.
that's what
I wouldn't say the Mets were
They
bad.
won the World Series
Yeah.
the next year. Though.
just notice which sport we haven't really been able to come up with one for.
NBA?
NBA, man.
It's always the best team that wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was like a couple of 8s over 1s.
Yeah,
but
a
I mean,
couple
it's
of
not
8s
in the
over
first
1s.
round.
Knicks versus
That's it.
Heat.
Well,
Knicks versus Heat, and then there was also the first one was Mutombo with the
Yeah.
ball like
Yeah.
this around that.
wait.
The iconic shot at Dikembe Mutombo.
Did the Nets win one and it was an upset? Didn't they win one?
They made the championship.
Yeah.
But they lost that game. What about, the Pistons, I guess, were a really good team the year they won, right?
Yeah,
they were unbelievable.
Well, they had two
defensively.
That was an
runs.
upset. They
Yeah,
beat the
two
Lakers.
great
They beat
defensive
the
runs.
Lakers, you know, but
That's right.
it's a
It's him and
small
the
upset, I
Pistons,
guess.
man. You always know
I
your
know
Pistons
a little bit
basketball.
about the Pistons.
I don't know. There's no reason for it. All right, but with that, we're going to wrap it up. This was Brooklyn Verse, and we just taken on the biggest upsets in sports history. Later.
Go Bridgeside.
Peace out.